Hello everyone, so we have a bit of a random video today, but this is one that has been requested of people, and this is a online selling advice tips sort of video. So you might be looking at me and thinking, who the hell are you, what do you know? Now, I'm not going to call myself an expert by any means because I'm really not, but these are just a few things that I've learned. I do run a small business online. It's not huge, it is quite small, but I sell mystery bags and boxes. I'll put some links down below if you're interested in those, but I sell beauty, self-care, kawaii, toy, even sock mystery boxes now. And I've sold at least over 700 in like a year and a half, so I think I did pretty well with that. It's still pretty consistent, I really enjoy doing it. This is going to be more of a general video for just selling anything, you know, even just like the junk you have around your house or whatever, because I think we all have a lot of that stuff and there's just some things people might overlook, or if you're looking to start your own little business, maybe this will be helpful. So please like and comment, I'd love to know what you think. And please subscribe if you want to see more of me. But yeah, let's get started. So the first thing I would say, which is really important, is postage. Now this covers a lot of things, but there are a few things I'd recommend with post. So generally, if you're in the UK, Royal Mail is probably going to be your best bet. I find they're just kind of slightly more reliable and they offer suitable cover and stuff like that. Now, one thing that's really helped me is this little tool here. Now you can get this online if you just type in like Royal Mail large letter guide. So this is a little guide. It only cost me a couple of quid, but it allows you to see sizes of your packages. So if you are able to, I'd always recommend trying to sell things as a large letter, because that's just going to really save you a lot of money on postage. So if you're selling like clothes, you might be able to fold it thin enough, and then what I do is I just like get my envelope and make sure it fits through here. And that has honestly saved my life so many times. Just saves a lot of money, because otherwise if it doesn't fit you have to send it as a small parcel and then that'll cost a little bit more. Obviously there's a lot of things that are never going to fit through, but maybe just like clothes or something small or like a book, it might just be worthwhile to check if it fits through here before you do that. And there's also a little one at the bottom which is for letters, which I don't really use as much, but the large letters are definitely useful. I think their prices, as of when I'm doing this video, start at 88 pence for a large letter under 100 grams, whereas something as a small parcel, the cheapest for that is like £3.10, so you're already saving like a couple of quid and more if you can make it fit in this size. So yeah, so large letter size guide, I'd really recommend. Another thing to do with postage is second class. So I'd highly recommend always just sending your items as second class and giving people the option, maybe say, you know, it's like £1 more if you want first class. Again, it's just something that saves a little bit of money. It means you can make a bit more profit. A lot of people aren't in a huge rush for their items, and if they are, like it's for a gift, I'm sure they'll let you know. And you can even put it on your selling site, you know, items sent second class, so people know. So that just saves a little bit as well. Royal Mail have a really good thing online where you can just type in Royal Mail get a price into Google, and you can just sort of like check out your weight of your items. It might even be worthwhile getting a scale just so you can like sort of figure out how much it weighs, how much it's going to cost. But pretty much, you know, all small parcels up to 2 kilograms are £3.10, and it's just the large letters that are dependent on different weights. But even those, they go up to like £1.83 for up to 500 grams, I think. So it's pretty decent. Now most of the time I think when we're selling stuff we can fit it into a small parcel size, so usually that's sort of this kind of big, sort of like a shoe box, a little bit bigger. I think it's about 40 centimeters one way, and then about 30 another way, and then it can only be 16 centimeters deep, so that's not super deep. It's, you know, as you can see, up to here. So sometimes you might have items that are bigger than that, and for that I'd recommend actually using Hermes, because Hermes you can pretty much go for any size and it's pretty cheap. Depending on weight, they start at like £2 something, or if it's a little bit heavier, like 1 to 2 kilograms, it'll cost you £4. Whereas if you had that same large size parcel with Royal Mail, they're immediately going to start charging you a lot more. I think with Hermes you can send up to 10 kilograms for, it might be £8 or something like that, whereas with Royal Mail it's going to be a lot more. So Hermes is usually quite good for bigger items that are light, or heavier items over 2 kilograms as well. But that's just a general rule. If it's a small parcel under 2 kilograms or a large letter, Royal Mail. If it's bigger than small parcel size, or if it's heavier than 2 kilograms, I go with Hermes. The second selling tip I would suggest is to be open to international sales. So I've actually sold a lot of items internationally. I've sold to America, I've sold to Italy, to France, Estonia, Croatia, Germany, some countries where I wasn't even familiar with. And I think it's just really worthwhile to be open to that, because there are certain things in your country that people won't be able to get. So I think sometimes people think it's a lot more hassle, and it really isn't. It's just sometimes doing a little bit of research. So once again, you can do the Royal Mail get a price, and you go through little different things to say where you're posting it to see how much it is. Or if you want something even easier, if you use eBay, use the global shipping program. I find that super easy to use, and basically you post it to somewhere in your country, and then eBay deals with the whole international bit, so you're not really paying any more. It's all left up to the buyer to pay more for shipping, and you just get your normal price and then just ship it, and eBay handles the rest, and they all include tracking and stuff. So I definitely recommend at least putting the global shipping program onto your eBay items, because trust me, there will be buyers out there that probably want something that you've got, and they'd be willing to pay that extra postage. So I'd definitely be open-minded to it. I also sell a little bit on Depop, and I've had quite a lot of people on there from different countries who have wanted my items, and it depends what it is. You know, if it's a smaller, lighter item, postage is going to be quite cheap, so I would just say at least be open to it, because I think a lot of people just think it's hassle and just think I won't bother. But actually, it's really easy, and I think you're just going to be open to a lot more sales if you ship internationally. My third tip for online selling is packaging. So if you're selling a lot of stuff, it might be worthwhile buying packaging in bulk. I buy a lot of these large letter size because they're really handy for some of the stuff I sell, and you can get them for like sometimes 10p each if you bulk buy on eBay. If you just type in like large letter envelopes or something like that, you'll be able to look at different listings and be able to find as many as you need and different deals for that. Or if you don't sell that often, it is just really worthwhile hanging on to stuff. If you buy stuff online, I'd always recommend hanging on to the boxes you have. I think we all have a cupboard somewhere where we can just chuck boxes in, because it is really useful. There's nothing worse than selling an item and then not having a box to send it in, or having to like put it in a bin bag, which you can do, but I just think it's generally a bit better to make sure that you have suitable packaging. And like I said, if you are selling a lot, then definitely look maybe on eBay or somewhere to buy boxes in bulk or packages in bulk. It doesn't work out that expensive, and it's just nice to have stuff ready to go. My fourth tip, or kind of a bit of advice, is to actually consider the real profits you're making, because I think selling online can sometimes be a little bit misleading. There's a lot of fees to consider, and I think sometimes we look at, oh, we've sold it for this much, but actually we haven't made that much money. So I think it's really worthwhile to weigh up all those costs, especially when you're trying to price your items. So if you're selling on platforms such as eBay or Depop, there's usually a 10% fee for when you sell it, and this is excluding, not thinking about buy it now. If you've just put an item up for bidding, when it sells, you always have to pay 10%. So immediately, if you sell something for £10, you've immediately lost £1. And then to factor in postage, and also PayPal fees as well. So PayPal is kind of the most common way to buy and sell, and I really love PayPal. I think it's really good. It's the protection and stuff is really useful for it, but they do have fees as well, and not many people know those fees. But here in the UK, for every sale you make on PayPal, they charge you 20p for the transaction, and also 2.9% of your item price. So again, if you sell something for £10, after those fees, you're left with £9.41, and then after maybe an eBay or a Depop fee, you're left with £8.41. So you can already see that you've lost £1.59 or whatever from just the fees, which is quite a lot. Really, you know, I think you can't really escape the fees, and I think it's just for that exposure and being able to sell your item. But I think it's just worthwhile to bear that in mind, because sometimes I see people reselling items that they've bought and they think they've made a profit, but actually after the fees and stuff, you haven't really made any profit. So I don't really know if that's worthwhile. And then of course there's postage costs on top of that, so sometimes you're really not left with much afterwards, but it's not necessarily the biggest deal. I just think it's worthwhile to bear that in mind, and it's pretty easy to work out. And remember that the selling fees come off postage as well, so if your item sold for £10 plus £3 postage, you're going to want to work off the fees off that total amount. So I'll use that as an example right now. I'll try to put it on screen, and this is just what you'd want to type into your calculator on your phone or whatever. So you would do 13 minus 2.9%, which would be your PayPal fee, and then you'd minus 0.30, which would be your 30p PayPal fee, and then you'd minus your 1.3, which is your 10%, so your £1.30, which would be from eBay or Depop or whatever you've sold it on. Hopefully that makes sense. You could probably research a bit more about that, but then that would just give you your total of what you're left with, and then you might need to minus your postage as well, so minus 3.1, £3.10, to see how much you're left with after all of those fees. Again, it's not something you necessarily have to do, but for me, especially when I'm trying to sell stuff to make profit, it's really important so I know where I'm at and I know all these little things that have to get taken off. My fifth piece of selling advice, at least I think we're on number 5, correct me if I'm wrong, is time limits. So this is just one just for you personally as a seller. I would say to always be realistic about your time limits. So this is like your dispatch time. So for me, when I'm selling quite a lot of my mystery bags and boxes, I always say a free working day dispatch time. And that just means that it will be up to 3 days, usually is 3 days, until I'm able to actually ship that person's item after the point that they've bought it. And that just means you can fit this selling in with your life, because a lot of people just sort of sell on the side. I know some people do it as a full-time job, which is amazing, but especially if you're just selling the odd thing or whatever, you know, a lot of us are working as well, or some people have full-time jobs and stuff like that. So I think it's really important to be able to set that up. Some places like eBay, they do actually say what is your dispatch time. You can have it as next day or 2 working days or 3 working days. Other places like Depop don't really say that, but I would always recommend maybe to put it in your bio or something. You know, I dispatch in 3 working days. Just something that's reasonable for you. Obviously some things take longer than others. So for example, with my mystery boxes, I can spend hours each evening packaging them all up because I wrap them all nicely and stuff like that. But if you're just kind of bubble wrapping and putting something in a box, it's a bit different. But just maybe thinking about the quantity of items you sell, and if you can realistically post it the next working day, or if you need to say maybe 3 working days or something. And it's just good to let people know how long they can expect until their item is dispatched. My 6th tip is just about communication with buyers, and again, it probably sounds obvious, but I know a lot of people that don't do this, and it's literally just to be polite. I get a lot of buyers asking me questions. I get some buyers that just ask me question after question. Always be patient, always be polite with people. At the end of the day, if someone's interested in buying your item, I don't understand why people would be rude, but I've had that. I've been interested in something, I've just asked a simple question, and sometimes people get really rude about it. So I think just be patient with people, because, you know, if you want to get that sale, you want to be able to be as helpful as possible. If you get a lot of the same question, you might want to actually adjust your listing with that answer into it, or if it's something more specific that you'd rather people actually communicated to you about it, then I would recommend actually having an automated response, or just a response that you've typed up and then you can kind of copy and paste into it. If you're selling on Instagram or you have a business page on there, I think you can also set up like an automated response. I think you might be able to do that on eBay as well, and just something to let people know you'll get back to them when you can. Something like that can also be really useful. But yeah, I definitely just, you know, always be polite with people, recognise if there's any common questions that come up and make sure you put that in your description if so, or if you'd rather it be more personal and that, you know, you get to have a chat with people, maybe have some responses ready to send just so you can reply a little bit quicker as well. The 7th tip is good photos. Again, probably sounds obvious, but I see a lot of listings and stuff where things are just a little bit blurry, the lighting's a little bit rubbish. I would just recommend trying to put some effort into your photos just to make things look quite good. So obviously daytime lighting's always good, or just a well lit place in your house can be really good as well. And just trying to make sure that it's nice and clear. A range of photos can be good. Sometimes people put one photo and that's it. You know, depending on what the item is, you might want to show the back of it, sides, all different stuff like that. I think generally more photos is better, rather than just one. And I think sometimes it can be off-putting if there's like one blurry photo. A lot of people cannot be bothered to be like, hi, can I have a better photo? Do you have any more photos? Because it's just effort. But I think if you already just have some good photos, then people don't have to worry about that, and they can just buy the item if they're interested. For objects, I think it's nice to have a clear background, so maybe just like a nice clean flat table or a clean carpet to take photos on, or maybe a bit of card or some tissue paper to lay the item on to take a photo. If it's clothes, you could always like hang them up in a place with good lighting. And I think with clothes as well, if possible, to have the clothes on can be really helpful, just so people can see what it looks like on. Obviously, if you no longer fit the clothes, that doesn't really work, but if you do, I think it is worthwhile just having some photos as well with the clothing item on so people can see that. Tip 8 relates to prices and actually how much to sell your items for. So sometimes we have something and actually we don't really know what it's worth or how much to sell it for. I'd always check eBay sold listings for that. So just type in exactly the item you have, and then there's a filter. So if you go onto the filter section at the top of eBay, you can scroll down a little bit and then it says sold items. If you tap that, you'll be able to see recently sold items and just get an idea of prices that they're selling for. Or you could also look at items which are already listed and see what prices they are. Obviously you want to kind of be competitive with those and try not list it miles ahead of those. But obviously if you've got a one-of-a-kind item or something that's really rare or sought after, then obviously you can boost that price up a little bit more. Tip 9 is feedback. I think feedback is one of the most important things when you're selling online. Just people being able to see that you're reliable, trustworthy, stuff like that is so important. Obviously for me, when I do my mystery bags and boxes, the feedback actually lets people know if they're getting value for money and if the items are good. But just anything that you're selling as well, I think people just want to know someone's trustworthy, and if they see someone's got loads of negative feedback or no feedback, it's just kind of a bad impression. So I would try and follow up your buyers if possible. You know, once you've posted it, obviously wait a few days until they've received it. But if they don't leave feedback, you might want to just message them, say hi, was everything okay? And then, you know, they say yes, then ask them to leave feedback. So yeah, I would definitely recommend to encourage feedback and make sure you leave it in return for your buyers too. And my last tip is tip 10 is item descriptions. So we mentioned before about if there's common questions to pop that in your description, but there's a couple of things that I would mention. So obviously condition of the item is really important. I would also mention whether it's from a pet-free and smoke-free home. I often ask people, is this item from a smoke-free home? Because I'm quite sensitive to smoke smell. I don't particularly like it. And also I have allergies a little bit with smoke and dust and stuff. So sometimes I say, hi, is it from a smoke-free home? And often people get back to me and they're like, oh yeah, of course, who smokes in their home anymore? You'd be surprised the amount of items I've bought and they come stinking of smoke, which isn't nice. So I think as a buyer as well, it might be nice for them to see, you know, if it's from a smoke-free and pet-free home, because people do have allergies and problems with that sort of stuff. And you can just put that really quickly in your listing. Always be honest in your descriptions. Again, probably sounds obvious, but try not to sugarcoat things. You know, if there's a fault or something, make sure there's pictures and explanations of that. And in terms of the descriptions, I would say there's one thing you actually don't need to include, and that is your reason for selling, unless it's like it doesn't work or there's a problem with it. So for example, if you had a dress and you really didn't like it, I wouldn't put, oh, I'm selling this because it's ugly, or because I don't like it, or because it fits horribly on me. I just kind of wouldn't put stuff like that. I think it can be a bit off-putting. Same as like sometimes I see people selling a lipstick and they say, oh, I tried this once but the colour looks horrible. I'm just like, it kind of makes you think, oh, is that going to look bad on me as well? So I would kind of leave people to make up their own minds and kind of leave personal things out of it. Same as even with unwanted gifts, selling as it's an unwanted gift. That one's not too bad, but I would try to leave anything about not liking the item out of it, just so you're not off-putting people. And just remember, people are selling things all the time, you know, because they don't fit, because they're bored of it, for any reason at all. I don't think you need to justify your sale. And just remember that people are just more interested in if it looks good, if it suits them. You know, if they're looking at it, obviously they're interested in it. So I would try and avoid putting anything that actually could put them off. So yeah, that's all of them. So sorry this was a bit of a long talky video, but this was requested, so I hope you find it helpful. If you have any questions about anything down below, please let me know. Like I said, disclaimer, I'm not an expert or anything like that. This is just some things I've learned as a buyer and as a seller. But thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Once again, let me know if you have any comments or ideas down below. And if you have any of your own tips, I would love to hear as well, because we're always, you know, looking to improve. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.